looks good. Do you think my paper out? Yes, paper is out. 2 packs. 3 packs came out. I got 1 email from somebody saying, can't make it today. Put the pack back in. So there's 2 up there today. It's Ishikawa-san. She's working on, what is she working on? Oh yeah, the back number for the portraits. Portraits number 14. Tsunami ink. Lei-chan is working on, I forget. I don't know. Okay, good morning guys. Good morning, good morning. Okay, it's going to be a mixed stream here this morning at this end. We have, of course, the carving we are progressing with, but before I continue with that this morning, I've been interrupted. I have to do a short batch of embossing this morning. Just a short batch, about 60 sheets. It won't take the whole stream at all, but it has to be done. Omi is waiting to ship the prints. And I don't have a board finished for it. This is an embossing board for a larger size print. And today the print is going to be one of the smaller ones. So I've got to find the place to put the print that makes the embossing work in the right place and make a new registration mark for it here. This is from, I don't even know, 2016, something like that, years and years ago. We built up a real back catalog. Built a real back catalog. Oh, microphone. Soka. Details. How can you tell it was a rush? Get ready for the chat. Get ready for the stream here this morning. Very much so. We just missed the Oshibori delivery, and he ran the engine today. Okay, can you hear me now? That was getting, couldn't you hear me? You heard me through the small mic on the camera to show? Better, good. Thank you very much for the audio reminder. Paper out reminder, audio reminder, good to go, good to go. Soka heard me softly, yeah. It's nice that the guy was early. What also was happening today, the Oshibori delivery, it was a younger guy and he was training somebody else. So they took quite a long time at this today. They were training. He was explaining what's going on. He had a clipboard. Here you go here first, then you go here, then you go here. So it could be that they're switching over to a different guy. I don't know. And we need instant registration marks here today, so we'll use a piece of tape. I think there's a guy asleep out there actually. When I came down here this morning, there was a guy sitting on one of the, there's some stone seats there. And I think there's somebody sleeping there. Not unheard of in Asakusa. Waiting for a bus, not on this street, so not on this street. Don't think he looks homeless. Oh, he's awake, right? He just moved. Wonder if someone spent a bit too much time in one of the bars last night. Who knows? Oh, I get it. He's doing the head nodding. He's struggling to stay awake. Is that what's happening? Okay, for those of you who are new here, it looks like there's new faces and new names already. We're going to be doing some embossing on a batch of print this morning for the first half an hour. Then I'll be carving for another half an hour or so. And then at the end of the stream, we have a show and tell of some interesting old items to show. So it'll be a 3-part stream today, 3 different activities happening. Hello, Dave. How are you? Dave is okay. Dave is okay. Okay, this is a test to see if we have the location correct. It's looking good to me. I don't know if it's visible. Let's have a look. What we've got is a polymer plate with some characters on it. I didn't carve this, of course. It's a commercially printed plate. And this is the last stage in this, making one of these prints when we put the name on. And what we have here, what I just rubbed in, is the word hori, which means carving. And it then says Kawasaki, the name of the young girl who carved this 4 years ago in 2016. And the printing is brand new, and it says Suri Printing, and it says Suri Taro, which would translate as the printing kid. He doesn't want us to use his name. We've talked about this before. How did I know where to put the tape? Kento, I just did a rough, I moved the print over where I thought it should be. I've got a line on the thing here that shows me that matches the line on the edge of the print. Just eyeballed it, put some tape on, and we are good to go. He's given me, as all the printers do, they've given me the first batch with some cut corners, which means there's something wrong with these prints. Maybe it was the registration was off. He was doing a test at the beginning of his run. Yeah, the red, it was off. I think the red was a difficult block for these guys. Yeah, this is poor. So I won't even quibble with him, though those are no good. He won't get paid for those. Those were his test sheets. And this is the run itself. I'll check them against once more before we send them out, but I'm almost sure this guy is very, very reliable. They're going to be good to go. Okay, let's do this. We got the camera in a good position. As I said, it'll take about half an hour to do this, then we'll switch over to the real work, some carving. This is one of Jed's designs. Yes, of course, one of Jed's designs. This is from the Portrait Series number 2. And I don't remember the name of this character. I think it's a Street Fighter character. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I have to throw in a general thank you too to the comments and stuff. The last stream, or the last 2 streams, we've been talking about the future idea for the shop and museum here. And although I can't follow the talk in real time, I read it later, and there's lots of comments and feedback on that. So thank you very much for that. So we're getting closer and closer and closer to trying to sort that out. And we're pretty much decided. We're pretty much decided we're going to give that a go. It's going to depend on how much relief the landlady will give us for it come January. But we've pretty much decided to do that change that we were talking about, to repurpose our whole business here in Japan. We will remain a publisher online. We will remain a print seller online, exactly the same as we are now. We're still going to publish a new print every month, and then other prints as we get time to do it. but the physical location in Asakusa is going to change. It's not going to primarily be a shop. It's going to primarily be a display space. We haven't worked out what to actually call it, whether it'll be a gallery, a museum, or whatever. But the primary function of this first floor where I'm sitting now, when we finish the renovation and open again, the primary function will be a display space. And about 1/3 of the floor area, the back room, will be a small shop inside the museum. And we're now working out design for the interior. We'll be totally renovating the front of the building, at least up to the Baron sign. We'll be totally renovating the front to make it look more attractive. At the moment, it's really, really funky and messy. So we've pretty much decided we're going to give this a try. The weather in Tokyo is perfect this morning, absolutely perfect. Not too hot, not too cold. It's a bit cloudy. I don't think it's going to rain. If I could freeze the weather for 1 year at this day, I would be happy to do that. Will the printers work from home full time? What I'm talking about here, the thing I'm just describing about now, is the way we're going to treat the first floor of this building. As I said, the shop space. Upstairs doesn't change. We're on a separate lease upstairs. Each floor, the second floor, third floor, has a separate lease. And we won't be changing anything. The third floor remains the production floor. There's a printer's room at the far front, an alternate printer's room in the middle. Chonzan does carving there. We hang the sizing there. The back of the third floor is where I do the sizing. Aoyama-san makes wood blocks. That will not change. How many printers work here and how many work at home is going to be flexible and change depending on how they feel, how the virus progresses or regresses. That doesn't change. But it'll be a dramatic change from the street view to what people see. Rather than a shop, which anybody can sort of wander into, it's actually going to be admission. And we may fall on our faces with this, but we're going to give it a try. Second wave, nay, I don't know. So far here in Japan, we're sort of holding on this, but don't know. Yeah, John's got something here which actually touches on something that we've been thinking about for years. 10, 15, maybe it's nearly 15 years ago, I wrote a proposal to myself in the form of a long blog post that laid out the kind of image I had for the future of the business I was thinking about building. It was going to be a publishing place, but it was also going to be a shop. It was also going to be a display space. It was going to be a cafe. We're going to sell cookies, whatever. It was a long brain dump blog post about the kind of things that we could do. And John's read this, I think, quite a long time ago. And one of the ideas that I had that I thought at the time was really kind of unique and funny was that the building had a shop in the building, and then in this vast, huge building, there was also a museum space. And the museum space rotated every 3 months or so with items from our collection. That's the plan for the new museum. But in the museum space upstairs, in this future thing that I was proposing, there was another room, museum room 1, go through to room 2, go through to room 3. This was a big building I was imagining. And when you got to room 3, you walked around and it was still the same museum feeling. There was a dark environment with nicely lit prints and a little tag showing what it was and an audio thing to hear the story. But in the third room, you look and you think, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's going on? And they were all prints actually taken from the shop downstairs. And the sort of thing that David was trying to show people by proposing this was that the prints we are making today are no less beautiful and no less interesting and no less attractive than those ones from 150 years ago, which we say, oh my God, that's a glorious, beautiful thing. I'd love to have one of those. So by putting our normal prints, you light them nicely. They look beautiful. By putting our normal prints mixed in with the museum stuff, I was trying to show people. It's on the wall here. It says, living with woodblock prints, you know. So yeah, John's idea here, wherever it was, it's already disappeared. We would absolutely do that. The museum displays that we put on the ground floor here would incorporate, now and then, as part of a larger theme, a larger display, they would incorporate items that are actually for sale, the same item, in the gift shop. And they would be tagged as such, of course. So this is a print from our Ukiyo-e Heroes portrait series we published in 2016. It's still available. We do them in subscription sets. Nobody can buy this print by itself, but when you subscribe to the portrait series, this comes as one of them. It's designed by Jed Henry over in America and carved and printed here in Japan. If that was the question. It's going by pretty quickly, I'm sorry. This is a Jed design, absolutely. This is from Portraits number 2. Mr. Flyfish, woodblocks from other countries for special exhibits. The idea here about this place would be, as I said, a 3-month rotating system. And as we mentioned the other day, it's not a big place, it's a small place. We would have 10 items on display at each time. And it's not going to be 10 Utamaro women. It would be just walk in and walk out. Nobody wants to see that. The idea that Dave wants to try and show here is not even so much the content of the pictures, Utamaro's drawings, but the concept of woodblock prints as interesting objects. So any given group of 10 prints is going to have a real mix of different stuff. And of course, among those would be prints that are made in this Japanese traditional style by friends of mine overseas. Absolutely, that's part of the plan. We're about halfway through here. Hang on with it. No touching of the prints after a cookie. So. Oh, he's gone to sleep. Looks like a college student type person. And I don't think he's ill. You know, when I was out there setting up the camera, he heard me move and looked towards me, and he's like watching what's going on, what's going on. I didn't talk to him, he didn't talk to me, but he was, you know, alert and with it. So I think it's someone that's just sleepy rather than ill here. Yes, somebody's asking, are we embossing? Yes, we are indeed embossing this morning. Absolutely. Let's show it again. People are just joining in. Zoom in again. The print is from our Portraits number 2 series. It's designed by Jed. His name is not on it. Jed doesn't get his name on it, but we make it, so we put our own names on it. And this says Hori, carving, Kawasaki. This is Kawasaki Noriko, our young carver in Kobe. And it says here Suri, printing, and the name's a fake name. It's Suri Taro. That's not his real name, but that's his, what do you call it? Art name, nickname, name to hide from the tax people? You tell me, I don't know. we know who it is, and at some point in the future, it will probably be public knowledge. But at the moment, he has really asked us very severely and very strictly, do not publicize my name. So we're okay with that. Speaking about the new people coming into the stream, I know Aoyama-san and I yesterday were chatting about the flow of the stream and stuff here, and I checked with the last few streams on Twitch the data that shows what's happening, and it shows clearly at the beginning of the stream there is whatever 100, 110, 120 people or whatever, and then that slowly increases, and it peaks somewhere around 300 or 350 or something. And then I say goodbye. So it's too bad. There are people coming in. Right until we finish, and then we leave them all hanging. So whatever, that's the way it is. That's the way the stream goes. So. But what I hadn't realized is that thing that we do at the end, the show and tell, is actually the most watched part of the stream. Absolutely. Today's show and tell will be more of a classic style. It's a group of 3 prints that I've taken from the collection upstairs. Recently, I'm not buying stuff, so I can't show you, hey, picked up this neat thing on auctions last night. I can't show you those because we're holding back our purchases, obviously. So anyway, today's group of 3. Actually, what I should do, not to tease this, but to give you an advance warning, so you can look this up. While I'm chatting and we're doing this boring part, you can look up a bit of background material. I'm going to click a link to an English web page that talks about a Kabuki play. I'll just punch it through. I think that's the URL. It's a bit strange looking for a URL. You might need to copy all of the right to the end. It's not showing us a full URL, but you might need to copy the whole thing, put it in your browser, and see what happens. If it doesn't work, let me know, and we'll look it up again. So the prints we have today are Kabuki Prints. It's a set of 3, and this is the play that's in the background. And if you read the plot, this is the page that outlines the plot. And I got to tell you, who makes up these things? I can't. This is entertainment. It works, the entire thing. Okay, so. And if you just read through that plot, you think, like, who on earth finds this? Who on earth would find such a thing interesting? Who on earth would want to see how this goes or what happens next? Or when you get to the end and it's all finished, who would think, yeah, I enjoyed that? I don't know. And the set of prints we're going to look at, they're not on that page. That page is background to the play. Also, there's a typo on that page, just so you know it. They're describing the play, and it says, the wistful love of a man and woman and the touched choices brought by the hell of war. And I think they mean the tough choices, I think. Tom's talking about he wants to be flooded with information. Well, I'm really not sure what to say. I've for years and years and years, this goes back decades for me. I'm convinced that rather than go wide and shallow, and basically this is actually my life, rather than go wide and shallow, I would rather go narrow, and of course, narrow and focus on something. And really, it's not an exaggeration to say that concept, that philosophy, that approach has guided almost everything I've done in my life. So for us to think about displaying these prints and talking about these prints, for me, it's a no-brainer to say, sit still, just be quiet for a minute and listen, and let me show you something, and do it that way, rather than do what I would call the scattershot approach. So I'm not against your concept. There's a message been held. Let me allow it, but let's see. The post from Moondog here was actually held by the Twitch bots, which I guess that's your answer, I guess. That answers the question. The Twitch bot considered that as a no-go. You want to go wide and deep. Of course, I get the idea. So, as I said, I'm not, fighting you or arguing against your idea. I get it. We're sort of switching this to an A or a B when, in reality, the in-between is the main thing here. So, well, all I can say at this moment is the first idea for this concept, the resources we have, the ability we have to do this, is the way I've described it, the 10 prints. But if you had read that blog post we've got describing the future Mokuhankan, that museum that we are proposing for the future isn't just that single room with the 10 prints. The room is there, people see the 10 prints, stay 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. There is also another room in this future imaginary Mokuhankan building. And it is the study room / library / whatever. And you make an appointment, and in you go, and there you are. You spend your 5 or 6 hours going through the card catalog on the iPad, requesting things, and out they come. So the future plan is, yes, we also want to cover you for that as well. The professional researchers and people with a deep interest. So yes, so not to be too snide about it, the basic museum is going to be the way we're proposing it, because that's what I think suits society's needs. And once we have the resources for it, we will expand our offerings to include the kind of thing that you mentioned there. How much I can do all at once and whatever. Try to find the post. I don't know, can somebody find this? Or maybe John can find it. It's a blog post we made over on the... Actually, I've still got my browser open here. Hang on a sec. I should be able to find this. Just a sec. Here's the vision. Okay, I got it. Somebody might have beat me to it by now. And you can see actually how much that vision thing I made, it said a visit to Mokuhankan in the year 201X, and I got my digits wrong. It obviously should have been 202X, but whatever. Our boy is awake, is he? I mean, the coffee shop right across the street from him is open. You reading about that Kabuki play? That's entertainment. What am I doing living in this country, Although having said that, obviously most normal contemporary Japanese too, if you showed them that, they're going to say, what? I'm not sure if there's any analog to that kind of a plot in Western, like Shakespeare didn't do anything like that. Is there anything in Western culture analogous to that kind of a story, that kind of a plot? I don't know. Don't know what to think about that. Part of it too, that sort of thing, from the cynical point of view, this is a feudal society at that time, remember? The government has structured the society in a feudal way. Everybody is in his place. If you're a farmer, you stay a farmer. If you live on that block, you stay living on that block. You do not change. You're not mobile, you don't try and do different things. And a big part of the structure of society was you obey your parents and you obey your boss and you have, honor and responsibility to all of them and stuff like that. So entertainment for them then, the stress of going out from the normal and being pulled back to the normal. I think that's the kind of stuff we've got here. The honor, obligation, blah, blah, blah stuff. This is actually sort of a propaganda for the government to make sure everybody really understands. Do your stuff, keep quiet, keep your nose down, honor your obligations, or you get mixed up in shit like this, you know. It could be looked down like that way, you know. Twisted Romeo and Juliet, I guess. I don't know. Almost done here. Half a dozen more, we'll be out of this. But the question came up the other day. Remember, I was showing you one of the prints. This was in one of the last week's things. And I mentioned there was a censor's seal on the print. I showed one of the prints in the show and tell, and it had been, approved by the government for publication. And people were asking, like, what do you mean approved? What are they looking for? There's all this porn was published in Japan. It wasn't checking for porn. What were they looking for? What would have been rejected? And I said, whatever doesn't follow the party line. And somebody had asked in the stream, I hadn't noticed it, what do you mean the party line? And that's the thing I was trying to explain a moment ago. The structure of society, it had to be a really heavily controlled society. You do not move, you do not go anywhere, you do not change who you are. And anything that smacked of a different philosophy, a different lifestyle, a different concept, it all had to be honor your boss, do what you're told, stay where you are. Dictatorship, I don't think that, it's just a feudal society. Dictatorship implies, like we see them around the world these days. This wasn't this. It was a society. The idea about that everybody would live and everybody would be together and they would do their jobs and they would do their stuff. It was an organized thing. The guy at the top wasn't doing it to get billions of dollars of personal wealth and stuff. He was as constrained as everybody else. More constrained. You didn't find peasants committing suicide because of something they had said or done. The guys at the top had these difficult life constraints. Okay, here we are, last sheet. Okay, all set. These now go to our Ome workroom. Actually, I still have to go through and check. There might be some chitty that needs to be taken out here. These will go to our Ome workroom. They will trim them, mount them in boards, and they go into the storeroom to await subscribers. And we're still, like I said, this is a print we published in 2016, but there's still huge demand for these. So we do them in batches. There's 60 or 70 in this batch. And that'll do us for a few more months, then we'll have to call it up again. Jed's design, very nicely carved by Kawasaki-san and printed by Suritaro. And he is good, and he's also fast. My God, he's fast. Okay, let's move along. Actually, I have another embossing to do today, but to do 2 in a row would be too much for our stream viewers. So we'll put this one away. I'll do the other one after the stream is over. Back to real work. What's the time? 8:35. We're still okay. Show and tell will start at 9:15, I think. And until then, let's do some more carving on our little block here. You're talking about Utamoto and censorship. I don't know the details of the story. It's kind of vague in all the history books you read. But Utamoto, at one point, he was shackled and thrown in jail for a few days. And the publisher, the guy who published him at that time, Tsutomu Zaburo, the shop was closed for an enforced time, and some blocks were thrown away and stuff like this. And I don't know, it's actually unclear, even among the researchers who know this stuff, it's unclear what specific print, because they're not there. Some specific print set off the trouble, and I guess the prints must have been seized and burned and thrown away or something. So we don't have the particular print that caused the trouble, so we don't know what they did wrong. All we know is the bare fact Utamoto was at some point criticized and actually jailed. And depending on how dramatic the writer is, he never recovered from this setback and declined and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I know nothing about that sort of stuff. Yeah. Okay, let me tease you a little bit here. This is, I shouldn't do this, but let me tease you a little bit here. I am going to carve my normal knife. You've seen this before. I'm going to carve some more of these patterns here. But something you see in the next few minutes is going to be a little bit different. Regular viewers will see something that's a little bit different. And I am absolutely, unreservedly, I am teasing you here. So we'll just see what's going on. Okay, so let's finally, after all this talk and all this noise, let's finally get to the work. Find the spot here. Hontoni, I talk too much sometimes here. So, okay, are we zoomed in? Is that the spot? As you can tell from the sounds in the background, today is recyclable garbage day. You can hear the guys picking up the cans and bottles. And I put out my bottles, I put out my cans, I put out the plastic PET bottles. I didn't put out the cardboard because it's not wrapped up properly. And I'm not going to sit here right now this morning wrapping up cardboard and struggling down the street. So it'll have to wait till next week. Nice and sharp, brand new, nice and sharp. Ooh. This is actually a historic moment here. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So what's going on here? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Power and politics. Oh, we got raiders here, do we? Sorry about this. I didn't notice that. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. There's 6 conversations going on. No idea. No way, no way, no way. Yes. We've been talking about this since 20. When did I start it? 2010, 2011? I don't know when we started this. We have in hand the first set. And I don't even know what this is. This is Mark 3, Mark 4, Mark 5, Mark 6. I don't even know. But they are the first production run of the new knives. The first production run. They're not ready yet. We're not going to be putting these on the website today or tomorrow. We are still, and we're months away, weeks away. I don't know, whatever. Let's call it months. We're still months away. Just hang on. But we finally now have the first usable actual production models. We've made some ourselves as tests. This is the first actual production model. And there's still a ton of things that are going to be changed. There's still a ton of things wrong with it. But we get them in our hands. Chon-san and I were yesterday working with these. We've got 6 different ones. This is the Ice Ski 3. I have with me also this morning the Ice Ski 6. And this is close, but this is still not, it's not quite ready. But yes, they are alive, they are coming, they're getting closer and coming soon to an online shop near you. Our first 6 tools are coming soon. Where was I? Excuse me. To make those things, we've got a bunch of different companies involved. We are not running a factory here ourselves making hardware, obviously. The blades we order from a special blade company, a blacksmith to our specifications. And we at some point thought about making the handles here ourselves. Back in Ome, I was building jigs and tools to do production in-house of the handles. We decided a year or so ago not to do that. We decided to try and find somewhere that can make them for us. And we went through a whole bunch of different places. And we never once even thought about the idea of sending them overseas, the Chinese thing. We're not going to do that. This is all made right here in Japan. And we think we found a successful place, a family, a woodwork shop family in Niigata, which is actually a famous place for hardware, for tools, for blades and stuff. Some of my other blades are made by a different family in Niigata. So anyway, we went back and forth and needs and requirements and samples and talk and send EPS files and all different kinds of stuff back and forth. And a few weeks ago, the first handmade samples came from those guys, but not production samples. Then based on what we saw on the handmade samples, we talked with them about what it would need to do the jigging and tooling and stuff like that. And in order to do a production run, to make hundreds at a time, they would have to make some jigs and tools. And we took the plunge. Based on what we saw on the samples they provided us, we have paid the money. This is months ago. We paid the money to have a set of jigs and dies made to do the cutting and shaping for all these different tools. And that was an investment. Actually, that too. That's a bunch of Patreon money going in that direction. And this now, the first batch we received yesterday, are the first batch of tools that are made on the jigs, that are made on their new production system. And they're close, but they're not ready for prime time, but they're close. And we knew this would be the case. We were going to try and get close to it, and then refine from there. So I will be testing and using these over the next couple of weeks, as will Chon-san and Kawasaki-san, are the carvers. And based on that feedback, we're going to go up to Niigata. We're going to go up there in about 2 weeks from now. We're going to go up to Niigata to their shop and sit and chat with them about the refinements necessary. It's too big. About the refinements necessary. And while that's going on, Aoyama-san is working on, now that we've got the things in hand, we know the sizes, the dimensions, we are now going to start working on the storage case, the case that they come in. And I have to get serious about designing and writing all the background information, the pamphlet that goes with the tools, how to sharpen and what to do and how to take care of it and all that kind of stuff. And that's going to be a ton of work. But we're getting closer. Shipping cost on this is not going to be big, because these are a tiny small item. These are nothing, I mean, a bunch of chisels, it's nothing. They're small and light. Oh, he's gone. The boy's gone. What happened? The ambulance took him away, or he just got walked away? The new chisel arrived yesterday. The batch of them arrived yesterday. No, they arrive in parts, we get the blades from one place. The different parts of the handle arrive separately, and we assembled these ourselves yesterday and tied them in. And we've already identified one problem with the tying. We asked for the groove to be a certain depth, and they did. They cut the groove across, down, and on the bottom. And then we also asked for the corners to be rounded to a certain angle, which they did. But they didn't adjust the string groove. So the string groove has no depth at the corners. And you can see what's happening here. The string bumps up out of the groove at this point. And that's no good. It's really annoying on your finger. So before we tie the string, the inside groove has to be filed at the four corners to make sure that's smooth and not intrusive to your finger. But other than that, they've come out pretty well. The size and shape and heft and length. We've also done something else, a little bit different from mine. I know. If you'll see my own older ones, look at the difference. There's the pivot point and the back end. And we've got the pivot point, and we have left these longer. And I'm really not sure if this was a good idea. For me now to test this, it's a bit too long in my hand. And Aoyama-san convinced me that because most of these tools will be going overseas to foreigners, we're making them a bit long, and we are going to include with them a guidebook pamphlet on how to lay it out on your hand for the length, and then if you want to, you can then cut the end off and sand it nicely yourself. But whereas if we had put the pivot point right to the end like this, then it doesn't leave anybody any room to cut it shorter. So rather than make them the same standard Japanese length, which honestly speaking is a bit short for people with big hands, we've left them a bit longer, We've kept the pivot point north, and people will be able to, if they want to, they will be able to cut it off and shape it themselves. And the reason I was a bit against that idea is I'm thinking most people will never do that. They will just grab the tool as it is and use it. And because it's a bit too long, it'll be a bit difficult to use. We really had to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on this. And I'm still not 100% sure. We could ourselves actually offer these in different lengths, and we could cut them and sand them. But to have a catalog, please order the chisels, tell us how long you want it. Nobody knows how long you want it till you've got it in your hand. These are sakura. This is cherry wood, and this one's a cherry wood one, and this one is beech. And we've got three. There's a walnut too, and we're still testing that as well. Cherry, beech, and walnut. And we've got 2 grades of steel. Normal, good steel, and then a much more expensive steel with molybdenum or something inside it. But it's more expensive to us. So we're thinking these tools will come at 2 different levels. And the normal steel will have beech handles, and then the higher quality steel will have cherry handles to differentiate the two. That's still an open question. The string is yellow. It's a shamisen string, and I don't know what else to describe it. It's woven silk. It looks like a fishing line. In fact, we're even thinking for the cheaper one, we might use fishing line for the cheaper one and shamisen string for the more expensive one, just to sort of give a brand differentiation. Nobody out there will ever be able to tell the difference between these two. The good blade is a really good blade. The other one's more expensive, and we're just sort of trying to offer branding at different levels. I'm talking too much. I should be working. Price range, can't talk about it yet because I really still don't know. I really don't know. They're not going to be cheap. We've talked about this many times when we did talk about prices. These are not going to be student level tools. They're not going to be the cheapest stuff on the market at all. Not even close. We're not even trying that. We're just buying and sorting out the best kind of stuff we can make, see where the price falls, put a bit on top of it for ourselves, of course, to keep the business going, and that's where it'll fall. These are not going to be a bargain tool in any way whatsoever. Lifetime tools. No, we're designing the box. We're designing the box, and then we will have it made outside by a professional box company. Yeah, shamisen. It's the Japanese guitar-looking thing. And I don't laugh about this, but what we want for the string to tie these is we want used shamisen strings. We do not want to use new shamisen strings. New ones, of course, like a guitar string. If you play guitar, you know what's happening here. You put the guitar string on, tighten it, tighten it again, tighten it again. You need to stretch it before it stables in. But a used guitar string or shamisen string, it's lost its audio qualities, but it is now a well-stretched piece of silk or nylon or whatever. And we want to use used shamisen string. Where was I? I've lost where I was. I want to need Dave focus on his work a bit more carefully. Where do you buy used shamisen string? There's no such place, of course. We just have to. We've already met one shamisen teacher who lives around the corner, and she's like, "You want what?" And we're like, "Yeah. How many students have you got?" She says, "A few students." Well, okay. What we'd like you to do is, whenever you change their strings, put the used ones aside instead of tossing them in your garbage. You're already recycling 20 different objects in your house. Please recycle one more, and we will happily pay you for your used shamisen strings. And she's like, "Pay me?" And we're like, "Yeah, we will pay you for your used shamisen strings." So, and I can see exactly what's going to happen. At some point, we will get some publicity on this, and a TV show will be here visiting, and we'll talk about our tools. And the guys on the TV show, they will absolutely glom onto that thing. And look at this, they use used shamisen strings for tying these things. And a week later, we will get a flood A 10 years supply of used shamisen strings. This is one sharp tool. It's also, for my taste, sharpened a bit too at the angle. The angle is wrong for my personal taste here. So. You want to see the angle. I'm going to get into a safe place here. My own ice ski is a certain angle, and I keep the bevel really low so that when I carve, it slides across the surface of the wood. And we're shaving here rather than chiseling. This is my own ice ski. We're shaving here. The knife never wants to go down into the wood. This new one, they've sharpened it at a bit more of an angle. How can I describe it? I don't know. It's a less acute angle on the bevel. Mine has a more acute angle on the bevel, and this is less. So for my taste, when I try and use this, it wants, look at this, it wants to go down into the wood. I want to shave across the surface. So, like this. I want to shave across, and this new chisel with a sort of a standard angle, it wants to slide down inside. So I'm going to have to talk to them about this, the angle we want here. And he's going to say, no, that's not the way it's done. And I'm going to say, I don't care how you think it's done. We want them done this particular way. So we're still, we're not there yet. We're still not there. These people are open and friendly. But I've had that before, open and friendly. When you're talking to them and they say, he doesn't know what he's doing, we're going to do it our way anyway. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Too steep or too shallow? Dave wants everything shallow because I hold my chisel. Down, almost flat. I don't want it to be coming from above. I want it to be sliding across. I'm planing the wood rather than chiseling the wood. So I want the angle also to be as low an angle as possible. And they've carved their angle more like this. More like a guy who's using a chisel with a hammer would do. I want the angle to be, how can I show this with my hand? I want the angle to be as low as possible, acute as possible, flatter, shallower, whatever. But that's my taste, an experienced carver. The tools are going to be going out for the most part to people who don't have much experience. So we're really, the questions and questions have gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So many, is the word compromise so many compromises or just so many choices between the way to do this, And I don't want each of these things to have to come with a complete instruction book, 50 pages of trying to read to figure out how to use your chisel, It's just going to be, it's just going to put people off, I hear water spraying outside. Is somebody hosing down the sidewalk in front of their shop? That happens sometimes on Sunday mornings, Saturday night being what it is. But There is a bit of news on the street shops front. Those of you who know the background, the kimono shop next door is kaput, defunct, gone. They're still not finished packing up. They're still clearing out. Ah, domo, arigatou gozaimasu. Ah, domo. Ah, いいですか? お願いします. Domo, thank you. The kimono shop is kaput, gone, cleaning up. All the soft goods are gone. The girls all cleaned up the kimono and stuff like that. And the shelves are still there, so I guess there's going to be a crew come in and rip out the shelves, or maybe they've arranged with the landlord to leave the shop fittings there. That's quite unusual in Japan. Usually when a tenant leaves, they have to return it to what's called skeleton. They rip out the walls and shelves and floor and everything, and the new people come in and rebuild it. But yesterday, there was a visit there next door. We heard the shutter go up, so Dave goes outside to peek and see what's going on. And there was a real estate agent type of person with his clipboard and file of information, and he was showing around some lady to the place. And it was clear that he didn't know what was going on either. He was just in there for the first time. And she's asking him questions, and he goes through his clipboard and flips papers to try and answer them. So it may already, well, it's on the market, and it may already be taken. So this is a pretty prime location. And I really, really, really want to know how much the rent is, but I can't just ask them, obviously. I want to try and use this new one and test it, but it's digging too deeply. It's just, there's no way. It's going deep into the wood. I absolutely have got to change that angle. For me, it's almost unusable like this. It's beautiful, it's sharp, it's clear, it cuts like crazy. But David's style, it's not Dave's style here, so I don't know. But this is why we test. How's our tongue? We okay? Oh yeah, no problem. It's easier to change the angle to make it steep than it is to make it more shallow. I'm not so sure I agree with that. I don't know. The sharpening thing, I'm not going to sharpen this now because I want Chon-san to play with it as well as it is. If we've got our stone and we've got the bevel here, the higher up we hold the wood, the steeper that angle is going to be, and the farther down we hold this thing, the shallower the angle is going to be. And for me, holding it, the farther down you hold it, the more stable the sharpening action is. For me, the higher up you tip it, the more unstable the sharpening is. It's obviously what you're used to as well, whether you're going to sharpen up and down on the stone or whether you're going to sharpen side by side. Even if you're sharpening side by side, again, it all comes down to the angle you're holding this thing. And to me, the lower, the more stable. This is almost flat. My fingers are running on the stone back and forth. If I were sharpening this now, zoom. At the moment, it's sharpened at an angle now about something like this, and I want it to be something like this. The downside, though, for beginners, the downside with that is the shooting forward thing. If I stay zoomed out, Dave's chisel here, as I said, I want to keep it low, I want to shave. But if I were careless, I'm going to push, and this thing is going to skip forward across the wood, and it's going to smack into stuff farther down the line. Whereas something like this, which doesn't want to shave, wants to dig in, I think that's much less likely to slide forward. But I can't use this. It's just too steep. but it digs and digs and chisel and chisel and chisel and chisel, but it won't jump forward. So maybe for beginners this is safer. If I gave this to a beginner, probably they'd put it in like this and go swoop and slide right forward and bash in, bash into stuff. I'm holding, both my hands are on the wood, and there's no room for it to skip forward because I'm anchored. Thoughts, thoughts, thoughts. No idea, no idea, no idea. To make it axe tape, all you talk about is changing the tip. You mean, Karen, not this bevel, you mean the very tip at itself? So he says, they're terrified I'm going to do this, but I don't think you're going to see that here. I don't think so. So back in the old days, yes, it jumped ahead for me all the time. Waiting for time. Still okay? Oh yeah, a bit more height. So somebody said it looks like a visual mess. So whatever, I know what's going on. It's okay. It's a kimono pattern. This is his head. This is the ink stones down here. And what we're leaving is we're cutting off all the kimono pattern. We're cutting off all the kimono except we're leaving some raised over and under crisscross pattern, which will be printed on top of the kimono. Has a base color from another block. This will print a pattern on top. This boy has a similar pattern, except his is negative. This one is positive. And if I had thought about it, I really should have made them both over and under, but I didn't think ahead in advance, and I cut this one both ways through. I should maybe have made them identical. I don't know. So this is a kimono pattern building up. Okay, so I guess we're getting time here. Time to put this away for a few minutes. What do we got? Yeah, okay, it's our time. Schedule 9:15 equals, excuse me, show and tell time. Okay, before we start this, before I pull out these prints, let me pop in that link once more, unless somebody else has done it. Let me pop in that link again. This is the link that might need copy and pasting. The kanji part you see right to the end of the quotes is part of the URL. That's a link to a Kabuki explanation page, which doesn't talk about woodblock prints, it talks about the history of Kabuki. Someone's found a better link? Just the short part works, John, does it? Without the... Okay, whatever. Thank you. Okay, a couple of things about this. Excuse me. What we're going to see now, these are, this is an actual, today's show and tell, these are actually antique prints. These are made in 1868. And we know that. I'm just reading what I learned from a Google page. In 1868, there was a certain play on the boards in Osaka. And the people decided to make some woodblock prints out of it to sell to the people who came to the show, and we have woodblock prints that depict a scene from a Kabuki play. And this is right back at the division line between Edo. This is still really Edo time, but Edo has technically finished now. We're at the beginning of Meiji, I don't know what year. 1868, is it Edo still? Meiji 2, John's on his. Meiji 2, John is on this. Let me take these out of the folder so we can look at them. It's a set of 3 prints, and where do I start? There's a bunch of things to talk about here. These are ukiyo-e prints, but we don't refer to them as ukiyo-e prints. They are a special subgenre called kamigata-e. Kamigata is the name in Japanese. If you've been to Japan, you've been to Tokyo, which is in the Kanto, the eastern plain. You may have gone down to the west side, Osaka and Kansai, Osaka and Kyoto, which is in the Kansai, the western plain. Back in the Edo time, they didn't refer to it as Kansai, it was Kamigata. And when we have Kamigata woodblock prints, we're talking about prints that were made in Osaka. They're invariably Kabuki themed. There's probably no Kamigata prints of other genres, I don't know. But when we speak of Kamigata, we're speaking about Kabuki themed. And they're always a somewhat smaller size than the oban, larger prints that were common in the Edo side of things. And they frequently come in groups. And we have here 3 prints which some previous owner has trimmed on one side to make as a triptych. And these are smaller than many ukiyo-e triptychs that you're familiar with from Edo. But as I said, kamigata are made this way. And it's going to be a bit difficult for me to show you. First off, the scene here is the one I mentioned before. This is a bizarre, I don't know, kabuki story. I'm not even going to try and relate it to you. Just the link is right there if you want to read it to enjoy with your breakfast soup or something. Go ahead. It's a story about suicide and then suicide again and then suicide again and murder and accidental murder and hiding in a well, and just it goes around and around and around. But the prince. There's a dear little lady down in Osaka. She's got a museum, the Kamigata Ukiyo-e Museum. She's a friend of ours. We did an NHK program together. She's come here, done a print party. After doing the print party, excuse me, she opened a little print demonstration in her own shop. She's got a cool little museum there, just of Kamigata prints. But one thing she and we are at loggerheads with. I am upset and angry at her, and she says, "No, Dave, you don't understand," and we have this agreement to disagree. She goes on TV all the time saying, the old ukiyo-e prints, they were so common. People would just pay the same price as a bowl of noodles for these prints. And we hear this all the time, bowl of freaking noodles. There were prints out there in those days that were really cheap. It was a wide market with dirt cheap stuff, medium price stuff, slightly higher price stuff, and then there was a top end that was drop dead gorgeous prints that were carefully refinedly carved, prints that had metallic pigments, prints that were embossed on the front with lacquer, prints that had just everything but the kitchen sink, and then they put the kitchen sink in as well. And she's saying, "Oh, it just all sold for a bowl of noodles." The hell it did. It sold. This was a very, very expensive item, only for the most rabid fan who would want to buy this. Anyway, whatever. They rant. Keep quiet about ranting. I got to find the angle here. Okay, we can see some of it. Got it? See her kimono over here? It's printed with black ink filled with glue to give it a sort of lacquer effect, and then it's rubbed from the front to make it glossy. What you see here is this color. It looks sort of a dirty, dull brown color. It's not brown. That is metallic powder. That when this print was made, all these lines around this kimono pattern, this kumihimo, the strings hanging down here, this thing out the back, all this pattern among her neck, this would have been brilliant metallic. Her head is done with silver. There's a kimono pattern on, and you can still see a faint sort of reflection on it. This would have been bright, gaudy silver. This print would have matched, in its lack of taste and its over-the-top gaudiness, it matched what you see on the stage in that kabuki play. People doing that ridiculous, over-the-top plot, dressed up in their uniforms and their kimono and making the funny faces and whatever. And it was one of the world's most, whatever, I'm going to use the word ridiculous. It's okay. It was one of the world's most over-the-top types of entertainment you could possibly imagine. And the prints matched it. And this would have been an extremely, extremely expensive production back then. Only really wealthy people would have been able to buy a set like this. Can anybody, has the synopsis, does it make any sense? This is obviously the lady, there's a heroine, and there's 2 protagonists, the male protagonists. I don't remember the names, so I'm not even going to try and tell you what it's all about. And we need light. Look at this. You can see as I move this thing, you can see the shininess coming and going here and there. His spear is lacquered. The coin pattern on his kimono are lacquered. His fan is lacquered. It's just, it would have been just, you'd need sunglasses to look at this thing when you first bought it. All these logos and things here in the kimono, these are all metallic pigments. They have now faded. They've now oxidized and faded. You can get some sense of it, right? You can see that the lacquer is still shiny, even though the metallic parts are not shiny anymore. And I don't know what's a number in equivalent dollars. I can't say, you know. Adachi down there, they sell their current prints much less gaudy than this. They sell them at $135 each, a set of 3, whatever, $500 or something, and maybe quite a bit higher in you know, equivalent money. If we were trying to buy this now, if you'd gone to the Kabuki Play and you were in the gift shop, there would have been cheaper souvenirs, and then something like this would have been a special item put across the back. I don't know, a few $100s at least. You can see, again, the metallics here, right? As I move this, you can see the metallics shining. Absolutely over the top. There's also a ton of quasi-karazuri. Can I get this? Can I move in? Her collar here, it's on super thick luxe paper, and her collar actually is heavily embossed. And it's been embossed with metal. What you see here, it's a gold color. It would have been bronze, I guess, maybe, or perhaps copper. And one thing to mention, a lot of the prints we see here on this show and tell are 20th century reproductions, because that's all David can afford for the most part. This set is not a reproduction set. The prints we're looking at here today, these are the actual prints from 1868. Or perhaps whatever, 1869, 1870, as long as that play was popular, they would have been making prints from it. And once the blocks are worn out, bang, out it goes. So this is a set from, as I said, from 1868. The ultimate fan art. Spend a few $100s on these gorgeous pictures. And what most people who bought these did with them was they took them home and they pasted them into albums. You know, you get folding albums of blank paper or accordion stuff, whatever, and you run your rice paste on the back, and you paste those down. This particular group hasn't been pasted down. And there's lots of shininess on the back too from the Baron mark. This is a very, very, very nice set. I picked it up some years ago. It was on a Yahoo auction. These do come up on Yahoo auctions really quite frequently. And I got this one, and I can't remember the details. Maybe it was late at night, or not many people bid, or Dave could afford it. Usually I cannot afford this kind of stuff. This is outside my price range. So there we have it. I have actually quite a few Kamigata prints. This is a set of 3. I have a bunch more sets of 3. I have a set of 4. One of them I have a set of 5, actually. They really went to town sometimes, you know. This particular play, as you saw the synopsis, has 3 main protagonists, but some of them have more. What's he got, see? Thought she had a braided beard there for a minute. No, it's the kimono pattern there, so. Did I spit on it? Yeah, I did. Look at that. Sorry about that. Another 100 years, we'll have another slightly foxed spot there. Ah, yeah, interesting point. The coloration is different to show. We see this all the time. Every single one of these Kamigata sets that I have, every single one shows this same thing. Look at the background color. Look at the background color. And look at the background color. And you know why, what's happened. If you didn't stick them in an album, what are you going to do? You're going to keep them somewhere in a shelf, you're going to stack them up, and one of them is going to be on top. And the one on top is more exposed to oxygen, and it's more faded. And always we see this. The one on top has the colors. You can see the blue is different as it goes across here. The background color is different, and I would wager that the metallics are more oxidized on the top one. There's always a top piece. The light showing now, they all look different actually the way the light is right now, but there is always a top piece. Is it this way? Are those two underneath and this one's on top? It's hard to tell. That's assuming the printers did their good job and got the colors right at the beginning. Who is this? This is, just a minute. I'm supposed to remember this. Oh, it's readable. It's Yoshitaki. It's Utagawa Yoshitaki, not one of the big names. Utagawa Yoshitaki. And I think, I don't know, is this online or somewhere or not? In the online ukiyo-e databases, there's really not much Kamigata work at all online, although there were thousands and thousands made. If you Google around for it, Utagawa Yoshitaki. Yoshitaki. Sorry about that. Yeah, before I started talking about that, I guess I should have done this. So, actually, I'm a bit curious. The middle one is darker than the other two. So maybe, is it possible somebody's mentioning this? Maybe somebody stacked it this way for a while, then stacked it this way for a while. Tell you what, remind me about this. I'll look up some of the other sets, or maybe next week, maybe I'll bring another set out, and we can look at one of the other sets. One I've got is absolutely like it. It's a blue, 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 gray. And the gray is the one that was on top, and the blue part has all faded out. So many Utagawas, yeah. Oh, you got some link on it. So. Good. Yep. Okay, I think we're good to go there. All right, where are we? Yeah, we're 9:30. It's close enough for Jazz. Okay, we're good to go. Today is Thursday. The next few streams coming up, I think I mentioned this last week, I'm about to start now carving on the first print in next year's series. And that was supposed to happen today if I didn't have this quick run to do that embossing going on. So pretty much for sure coming up next Saturday, Saturday morning for me, Friday night for you. The plan is that I will be pasting down the tracing for the first print in next year's subscription series and having a go at starting the carving it. That's the plan for next Saturday. What will really happen, I don't know. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope this has been interesting for you. I am now going to get out to do some real work, and I'll see you again in a couple more days. Saturday morning for me, Friday evening for most of you guys. Thanks for your cooperation. Thanks for the comments. I'll read the chat through when I have my lunch. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.